Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're finally going to be adding some plants to the forest aquarium over here. We set this thing up a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was 3 weeks ago, I can't really remember, but it's definitely time to get something in there. A lot of you thought it would be cool to leave it plantless, and I didn't disagree with you. I thought that might be kind of a cool idea, almost like a little experiment to try, but knowing me, I knew that wasn't going to last. I have to put some plants in this, so today we have a plate of moss and some hair grass. We might put a few other plants in it, but it's just time to get things planted. If you guys haven't seen the first video where we set up the tank and actually built it out, I'll put a link for it in the top of the description so you can check it out if you haven't. The tank's water level is a little low. There's a lot of evaporation up here, but it's okay. We're gonna go ahead and fill the tank back up. Normally, I would do like a water change on a tank like this before we plant it, but I think I'm gonna hold off and just do that in the next couple of days after we plant it. Not really a big deal whether, we do that today or we wait a couple days. The tank itself is looking really, really clear. You'll notice that we do have a little bit of fungi growing on some of the wood in this aquarium. We're gonna deal with that. Today we're gonna grab a toothbrush and we're just gonna clean it off. This is not atypical for when you add wood to an aquarium, especially new wood that's never been underwater. If we had fish in this aquarium, they would kind of slowly be picking at this stuff, but because nothing's in here, the fungi is just going to stay there, and it will kind of slowly die back, but we don't have the time or the patience for that, so that's why we use the toothbrush to get rid of it. I believe I just got done saying that we weren't going to be doing a water change. That is not the case. We are. I wasn't thinking about how much of this mold we were going to kick up in the tank. So we're going to do a basically probably close to like an 80% water change, get all of that excess floating mold out of the aquarium, and then start to plant it. Ew, look at all that mold. Now guys, because we're going to be using a ton of mosses in the aquarium that we need to super glue to the wood, we can't do that with the tank full. So this 80% water change, I'm about to stop this here in just a second. It might be turning into a 90% water change. We basically need the tank to be empty to do all of that. The hair grass and the other plants that we may or may not put in here, we can also plant those in, pretty much a dry environment. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna go take this bucket downstairs and then we'll finally get to planting. To attach the moss to the wood in the aquarium, we're of course going to be using Gorilla Gel Type Super Glue. If you watched any of my other videos, you know that this is my MO, this is my go-to stuff. So to start, I'm going to use some of the pre-cut slices of this Christmas moss that's attached to some netting. Because it's on this netting and I already have this kind of like pre-slab of moss, I'm going to start by adding super glue directly to the back of this pad of moss and then slap it on to whatever wood surface I want it to go on. Once I've used those up in areas where I want to have a lot of moss coverage, I'm going to take the loose moss and just pinch it up in my fingers and apply super glue directly to the areas where I want that moss to go and then just press it on. This is the progress I've made so far, guys. Pretty much all moss. You'll see that I've got kind of most of the front done. I need to add more moss here, but we still have to do the dreaded sticks in the back. That's going to be kind of a nightmare, but doing this work is just super tedious, so I'm going to take a break from that and start working on the hair grass. I think the addition of the hair grass in between the front sticks and maybe even a couple little sprigs in the back will help kind of round things out in the scape and also just give another layer to the aquascape. These tissue cultures that I'm using are 2.5 months old, at least 2.5 months old. So you'll notice that, some of the roots in here are not looking too hot, but there are white roots around the edge. That's a good sign. But I just can't believe these Dentalay tissue cultures have lasted these long. These are the same ones that I got at the Aquatic Experience in November. So they haven't been in the fridge, they haven't been under like a consistent light source or anything. I'm really surprised that they've lasted this long, but I'm glad for it because we needed them for today's project. Let's take a little break here and check out the haunted tank really quick, guys. I also did a little bit of work down here today, added some moss here, and I also, kind of hard to tell, but I added in a few more branches, a couple pieces of spider wood here that are super glued together to kind of fill out this left side of the canopy a little bit better to match the right side, which had a little bit more branchage. You can see I also added some more moss to there, so hoping that kind of fills out a little bit better. You might remember from a previous video, we had our brace slip out of place here and we had to drain the tank down for a couple days. It ended up just frying a lot of the moss and the mini bobitis up here. It's not looking too hot. Most of the Anubias is okay, but we just had to kind of start over, so hence why I needed to add a few more plants in here. I don't want to give like a full update or anything on the haunted tank or our tank over here. We'll be doing that really soon, but just know that both of these tanks are doing absolutely fantastic. All of the fish in here, all the Kurai tetras, emperor tetras, glass cats, and our little auto there are doing fantastic. I'm loving it down here. This is awesome. I can't wait to finish the Avatar tank. I'm trying really hard not to show it. It's on the left. It's getting closer to being done, but again, not 100% sure when that video is going to come out. But I hope you guys are excited because I am super excited to get that tank up and running. We also got the new addition of some shelves over here. You can see I'm starting to line up all my products. And what I'm going to do down here might be pretty cool to some of you guys. We're going to start up more of a mid to long term plant setup. So like I get a lot of plants, but I don't have a use for them right away. And so, you know, it's kind of tough to keep them in good shape for, you know, somewhat of a long period of time. So we're going to be hooking up these little mini greenhouses. You've seen me do a video on these before in the past, but we're going to set up 2, 4, 6 with lights above. I got to figure out how I'm going to be attaching them here. So that should be pretty cool. And I can't wait to just get like a ton of plants down here and never have to be like, oh, I don't have this or that to do a project. I'll just have a little stockpile of my favorite plants that I can have whenever I need them. And then of course the 125 is still here. I managed to get the backlight all set up. Where's my remote here? Boom. That's as far as I've gotten though, so unfortunately we're just not quite there yet, but all of the supplies for this tank are coming in hopefully within the next week or so, so get excited for that as well. Oh, alright guys, the tank is finally done after a good hour of moss gluing. Let's go ahead and let's fill it up and see how it looks. So that is the tank planted. I'm happy with it. I think I would have liked to have a little bit more moss. I used absolutely every last piece of it. My plate here is empty, as you can see, but we are not completely done. We still need to hook up some CO2, so I'm going to go through that real quick for those of you that are interested in what my setup is. So over here I already have my paintball canister. This is a 20 ouncer, I believe, and then we have an Aquatech mini regulator on here. To diffuse it, we're going to be using one of these little, I believe it's a Aqua Neo diffuser, super tiny. It's going to be perfect for this aquarium. We can just tuck it back behind some of those sticks or our tree stumps and we won't see it at all. This aquarium definitely doesn't require CO2, but I'm the type of guy who always wants to use CO2 if I have the parts available, because adding CO2 to any aquarium, even if it's one that just has moss and a little bit of hairgrass like this one, it can still make a huge difference in the long term. What do you guys think of the tank? Let me know down in the comments below if it's what you thought it was gonna be. I mean, at this point I'm pretty predictable. It's a lot of moss, it's a lot of glue. I'm gonna try and get back into some more stem plants. I've been working on it. Something that I might do for this tank actually is add some stem plants to the background. I think that could help kind of fill things out. It's not 100% where I want it, so we'll let it grow out for the next few weeks. That's one thing, once you finish gluing a bunch of moss to an aquarium in Escape, you see a lot of that super glue just sticking around. All of the white from the super glue, it doesn't look that great. But again, give it a couple weeks and the moss will start to grow and it'll cover it all up and then we won't see any of that. You just have to be patient, let nature take its course, and then things should be the way that you want them, hopefully. This is an aquarium that is going to take an extreme amount of maintenance. I mean, once we have that algae hit this tank, which it will, there's no doubt about that, it's going to take a lot of work. I'm not going to be able to look over the tank and say, oh, I'm going to deal with that tomorrow. I'm going to have to take action right then and there and deal with that algae, stay up on my water changes, get in there, manual removal with the toothbrush, try not to scrape a bunch of the moss off. It's going to be a challenge. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. And I want to thank you again for sticking in there and watching this video. Again, if you didn't see the first video where we set up the tank, I'll have a link for that down in the description. And yeah, I think we're getting closer to finishing things up here. I mean, we still have like 4 tanks to do over here, but the desert tank that's behind you guys is probably going to be the next video. We got to make some decisions there. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching one more time, and we'll see you in the next one.